So some few weeks back, I was asked to consider facilitating this session in replace for somebody else. So I was trying to assemble a team. I thought I'll make it a bit different this time, my brother Joe. I actually assemble an ASEAN team. Okay, it's a regional team. So we have brother KianLee from Singapore. We've got sister Cathrine from Singapore, brother Amir from Indonesia, and myself from Malaysia. So it is indeed a regional team. They will share on episodes 831, 832, and 834. So I'll tell you what, I listen if you like the dry run of this, okay, and I liken their sharing about from the son, the mother, and the father, okay. So let me first of all, I didn't disclose this to them, okay. This is the first time I'm saying this. So I'm going to introduce brother Amir from Indonesia. He's actually from Jakarta, but because of the lockdown, he's now based in Medan. Now he's going to share on episode 831. And this is the episode on cultivate the factors of Bodhi to find a way home. Basically the stanza is about, though originally the son of the wealthy family, after one instant of foolishness, he wandered in destitution and hardship, impoverished and faced with adversity. And in this case, out of compassion, the father looked for his son. And his son had lost his way home. The father traced his footsteps and found him and affirmed that this was his true son. Now, as you can see, brother Amir, he's a patient at present. He joined Tzu Chi Volunteers donor back in 2016. And has been quite active and is presently based in Medan. Now, brother Amir warned me. He said he's not fluent in English, okay? But you know what? I got to give him the efforts for trying. So here you go, brother Amir. All yours.
Brother Jin for introduce, and I will try to share my screen first. Okay, can you see my screen, Brother Jin?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, brother and sister. Let me introduce myself as Amir Sumadi from Indonesia. I will try my best to share my humble insight with my broken English about cultivate factor of body to find the way home. Wisdom of Dawn episode 831. Subhuti and Venerable Kashyapa had followed the Buddha for a long time, but they had been unable to mindfully comprehend the Dharma and remain stuck in the small vehicle Dharma. Same with me, as a son of Buddha's family who when young and immature, got lost and was unable to find my way home and live a life of poverty, destitution, and hardship. This describes the difficult life while got lost. I had met Buddha's teaching in 2016. Because of GPS from before this life, being volunteer of Tzu Chi, I had just arrived in Dharma door. Should I come in or waiting there? Dharma door is not automatic sliding door. That is why our master explain how to open and walk inside by ourselves. As you see at this photo, I am on the right side, and most of my family, friends, relatives, etc. take different way. Most of them took other ways. What should I do? Let me think. I want to own a big grid vehicle, learn how to drive, and know direction with GPS to Takata, and ask others to join me together. The 3-7 practice to alignment are an important process to go through for spiritual practice. To remember it, recall the number 3, 4, 2, 5, a 7, and an 8. A 7 and 8 refer to 7 factors of enlightenment and 8-fold noble path. The 7 factor alignment are: number 1, discernment in knowing truth and falsehood in all teaching, which is the true Dharma and the right method work practicing. Number 2, the reason, cultivate without interruption, single-mindedly focus and no discursive thoughts to experience the path without complication. Number 3, joy, from awakening to the true Dharma, relate to all analogies. We are the poor son, the homeless, and not someone else. Contemplate the teaching, practice to realizing the principle, dedicate the Dharma to ourselves. Dharma taken to heart must be shared to bring joy to all. Number 4, elimination of all ignorant view and affliction as we journey home, like cleaning all roadblock. Number 5, renunciation in letting go of our attachment, self-view and understanding our habitual tendency in exchange of simple lifestyle to tame our 6 root and dust. Number 6, samadhi. Uphold precept to guard the mind from from chaos to have peace, calmness and focus. Number 7, thought. Contemplate and focus the mind in the inner state to keep out the noise by listening to our hearts and focus on the teaching. Thank you to all of you, my brother and sister in Dharma, especially Brother Chin, for this opportunity, and hurry to grab for sharing my limited insight and joy in Dharma. Cherish our time and
Thank you, Brother Amir. So I will pass the session to Brother Joe for his commentary.
Okay, thank you, Brother Amir, and thank you, Brother Chin. I think that was a very direct approach. I think I often ask myself when watching this story. In the story, the father has to be very careful in teaching, in choosing the right material to teach to the lost son. And I ask myself this question: why? Because we know from the story that if you are too direct, then the son will run away. Now, I ask myself, would I know if the father or the elder is trying to teach me the true knowledge? Would I faint? Would I run away? Or would I accept? Or would I become like the lost son, where the father has to change and to choose the right teaching for me? Which would I be? You know, I'm always the one where, if you watch the movie that I always think about was Saving Private Ryan. Okay, so usually I think of it this way. You know, if you remember at the very scene where they trying to invade, okay, the Normandy, when they're trying to invade, when the U.S. Army or the amphibious attack, when the gate comes down and you see the machine gun fires into the amphibious the vehicle. Okay, brother Amir, you're nodding your head. You probably remember, if you know this scene, and you see all the people just keep on dying, right? And then the body falls into the water. I always think of myself, I'm probably one of those. I'm not the main character. I'm thinking, if I appear in the movie, I'm those guys that just drop dead, or the ones that, you know, got shot on the beach, and you know, I don't see myself as the main character. So same way, coming from here, we usually think of ourselves as, oh yeah, of course, I'm not gonna faint, I'm not gonna run away. I'll just take the true knowledge as what the elder or the father is gonna give me. But would I really be able to accept it? Or would I just run away just like the child? And then Brother Amir talked about the 7 qi juezi. And I think that's the key, right? Because the first one is to choose. The father has to use the wisdom to choose. But I think of myself as the son. We're all sons. And would I be able to choose to accept, or would I choose to run away? So instead of thinking ourselves, because we're seeing the story from the perspective of the Buddha or the elder, but if you look at the story from the perspective of the son, what would I do so that I will become, so that the Buddha doesn't have to spend so much time to try to change the Buddha himself to fit me. Rather, it should be me changing so that I can receive the teaching. And I see it that way. So I'm the other way around. What do I do to choose the right vehicle to accept the teaching? And once I choose the right vehicle to accept and receive, am I diligent? Do I have that joy? And would I be able to get rid of all the bad things? And would I be able to let go of all the good things that I think I need? And then reaching samadhi and finally having that mindfulness. Whatever it is, I think from the story from this particular episode, this is what I got. And it's a different perspective, but I always like to think of myself as, I am not the main character. I am one of the, the ones that really need help, or the first one to go out of the story. But whatever it is, I think of it as, how do I change the story so that the main character doesn't have to work so hard to help me? Like in the horror story, don't run away, don't scream. It's not gonna help, right? So something like that. So thank you, Brother Amir. I hope sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joe. So we have Brother Amir who showed a slide that he found a way on the great vehicle, but he found that he's walking alone. Now, next, I must say I'm going to introduce Sister Cathrine, Sister Cathrine Neal from Tzu Chi, Singapore. So I'm going to introduce her from the perspective of the mother now. So this is the episode you're going to share is on episode 834 about wandering away from innate enlightenment. So in the stanza, it says, our true nature, this pure source of our hearts, give rise to wisdom, understanding, and faith. So due to the arising of a single deluded thought, we wander away from our innate enlightenment. So the Tathagata journeys on the Dharma of great compassion, upholding loving kindness, exercising wisdom, expounding the Agama and the Vaipuya. He turned from the small to the great. Now, Sister Cathrine was commissioned in 2019, which incidentally the same year as I do. He's recently joined this group called SEEN, S-E-E-N, stands for Senior Engagement and Enabling Node of Tzu Chi as a project coordinator. They say, and the reason being is that the master always mentioned time is not enough. So taking care of our elderly and giving back to society is her passion. And she actually then resigned from her work and joined SEEN. So highly commendable. And Sister Cathrine, all yours. You got to load your slides, Sister Cathrine. You move it down to the slide mode on the right-hand side. Right, yeah. You just need to click on it.
Sister Cathrine, you have to unmute.
Just use the cursor to tap on the slide. Just click on the slide, Sister Cathrine. You're muted. You're muted. Can you unmute? I think her bandwidth could be. Sister Cathrine, can you unmute?
No, it's a.
You click on share slide on the top. You need to unmute. Can you hear us, Sister Cathrine? I think she got, did she get Zoom out? I think there's some problem with her bandwidth. Is she in again?
Yeah, she's out.
Okay, if Sister Cathrine is Zoom out, so maybe what I'll do is that I will now move on to, let me see whether she's, oh, Sister Cathrine is back. Sister Cathrine, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm already unmute.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, now. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your slides.
Okay, now. Okay, that's good. Okay, good evening, brothers and sisters. I'm
Can you put on
Sister
slide
Cathrine.
mode?
Yeah.
On the bottom, towards the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can hear.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, good evening, brothers and sisters. I'm Sister Cathrine from Singapore. Today, my sharing is based on episode 834, that's Wandering Away from Inner Enlightenment. Okay, the initial verse is, when we are born, we have pure mindset. Okay, throughout different methods and experience, our thinking is no longer pure. As you can see, this little boy, this photo of this little boy, when we are first born, we are very innocent. When we grow and we listen and see and hear what other people is talking, and the different types of peoples of different behaviors, and also the different mindsets, then our thoughts will change, and then we will become aggressive as this little boy. Okay, we may not fight for power, but we may compete for recognitions. So this is more likely is the power. For this, is it for me, I was thinking of myself is it worth to be framed, to have status and also power? I mean, when you have all this, you are hurting others. As Master always reminds us, everything is impermanent. No matter how rich or poor you are, one day when you leave this world, you will not take this away with you. So this is part like a loan. So when we fight for this power, it may hurt others. So this will create bad karmas. We may not be aware, just like sleepwalker, not aware what happened around us. In actual fact, sometimes we have knowledge and wisdom of certain things, but in ourselves, we may just tell ourselves, oh, I don't know anything about that. But then in actual fact, we have a lot of knowledge, especially when we listen to Dharma, we listen and carefully take into our hearts so that we can use it every day in our daily life. And another one is just like the poor son, he thought he is poor, but actual fact, he is rich with lots of goals. We are blindly spend our day working, livings, and do not bother what is happening around us. When this come into our mind, when we say, oh, we do not bother about what other people say, especially when gossiping and all this, we just let it go and just tell ourselves that we are cultivating, and more or less they are not really cultivating themselves. So that's why they have not the wisdom. They don't have the wisdom. So that's why they are talking bad about other people. Okay. So we naturally have compassion and wisdom, but we are ignorant what we have. So once we have compassion, wisdom, and tolerance, there is no boundaries for all sentient beings. Means we will love them like our own, so that we respect life, especially even it's a single ants or whatever animals, or even it's sea animals or whatever, they means something to us. So that's mean we do not kill because we have compassion. Okay. So in Master explanation in this chapter, we shall understand and accommodate other different suggestions and opinion. For this, like this Tzu Chi, like to be grateful, everyone's want to contribute to have the matter complete successfully. Means when like Tzu Chi, when we are doing events, so we'll come into a group where we will talk, we will explain and make decisions. Then we'll come to a point that we will take this as a decisions to make these events to be successful. So this we must be very happy that everyone is going to contribute. When sentient beings suffer, we will stretch our arms to help them. Buddha teaches us the karmic law of cause and effect. Look at these pictures of the little girl and the little boy. They are different races, and yet this little boy is able to comfort the little girl. So that shows that means when anybody who is in need, we have to lend our shoulders or stretch our hands to help them. This is called compassion. We must listen to Bodhisattva. We must physically help people in need. In this way, we will truly learn the core meaning of Dharma. Listen diligently to Dharma, understand it, and put the Dharma in our hearts. If we just listen and do not take action, it's just like dust. Means when we listen to Dharmas, we must listen carefully, as Master every morning tell us, remind us, because when we use it in our daily life, it will help us a lot. So the lesson learned is we shall open our mindset, accept differences and opinions. And each of us had nature inherent when anger arises. When our anger arises, it will cover our initial coolness, causing us to do things that we regret later. So when it comes to make decisions, it's best that we think carefully and do it, and so that we will not regret. Like for example, if now we are learning about dharmas, and okay, after a while, then we leave the dharma world. This we will regret it, because dharma will teach us whatever we do, we'll bring it to the next life. So it's like writing a script for our future life. We contribute without expecting returns. When we think about it, we shall enlighten to be able to help people in needs. That means when you do or you give, you will never think, oh, today I'm giving some things to a person that's in needs. Then I will get what is good for us. But in actual fact, when we are doing something good, we don't think of what's in returns. This is the Dharma that Master is teaching us. Look at this little girl, both this little girl. This little girl is development of unconditional love for all beings. Means whoever it is, we must love them. My complementation is every one of us can open up our hearts and helps others to reach the pure Buddhist Dharma. This world is full of happiness and suffering. We relieve them from suffering. Buddha teaches us we must not benefit ourselves, we must benefit others. Our relationships, within our time, space, and relationships, we have different cause and effects. So for this is that we know each other's in, for example, like Tzu Chi or we workplace, there's a conditions. That's why we are meant to be together, and we comes together to work it, make it happen. So I would like to thank Brother Chin for inviting me to share my insight. Okay, Kan-en, brothers and sisters, to be kind is more important than to be right. Many times what people need is not a brilliant mind that speaks, but a special heart that listens. Kan-en, brother.
Thank you, Sister Catherine. I shall now hand over the session for commentary by Brother Joe.
Okay. I like Sister Catherine's feedback there, with particularly about born with the pure mindset. I think that is something that we might not be aware of. Whether you are not aware of the purity, or if you are not aware of how it has been tainted. But whatever it is, the most difficult part is to recognize that it is changing, whether it's going from pure to impure, or slowly seeing our changes. That is all very difficult. But I think that is exactly what the Dharma is supposed to help for us. We're not going to be able to see a jump or a substantial change. It's very difficult. But through time, with faith, there is going to be change. And I think that's something that we're talking about in this particular chapter is you need to have faith. You need to have time, and you need to keep on going. And I think that's when something that we would be able to slowly but surely having that change. So I think that's something that, thanks to Sister Catherine, to be able to remind all of us that we are wandering away. If you recognize that you're wandering away, then what can we do to help ourselves to pull ourselves back? Okay, and that's something that if we are all, I think the key here is, do we recognize? Are we aware? And the first step is always to be aware and then recognize, and then we can take the necessary steps. So faith is very important, because sometimes imagine if you're pushing against a wall, you're pushing against the wall. You push it every day. And then every day you look at the wall and it didn't change at all. The wall does not change. The wall does not move. The house does not move. And the wall does not enter. That means that out of all this, eventually you're going to stop because you see no change. But I think the most important thing is the Buddha taught us through samadhi, through faith, that we can be slowly changing, and that we can be aware and recognize that there are these things, that there are changes that's happening. Okay, thank you, Sister Cathrine. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joe. I'm sorry, there was a bit of a disturbance just now. So last but not least, I would like to introduce Brother KianLee. He's also from Tzu Chi, Singapore. He's going to share on episode 832, which is on to cultivate and uphold pure precepts. In here, the initial verse that Master explained was saying that cultivating bodhisattva practices requires upholding the pure precepts. And we must carefully adjust our actions and speech with sincere thoughts to realize true principles. So with kind and gentle understanding, we leave behind all that is deluded and false. Thus, our thoughts, actions, and speech must be gentle. Brother KianLee joined Tzu Chi about 5 years ago, and he became a commissioner in 2019, same time as Sister Cathrine. He's semi-retired and is teaching economics in the local university and some overseas universities. But in Tzu Chi, he's mainly involved in the Nanyang Technology University in Tzu Chi activities, being a Tzu Chi Baba, English volunteer training course development team, and a sharer to do monthly home visits. And again, Brother KianLee is another very diligent practitioner in Tzu Chi. So, Brother KianLee, all yours.
Thank you, Brother Jing, for the sharing. Can you see my slide?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, and good evening, the brothers and sisters in the Dharma. I would say that Brother Jing said that I have very diligent practice. I can't hold that. I'm still learning. I'm very shallow in the Dharma and the practice. But I'll try my best. I'll share my humble part that I know. And just to let you know that this episode, video chapter 832, is chosen by my home sister. Probably she wants to remind me that I have to continue to hold my precepts. And this is a topic that the Master has shared, which is very profound. And it's not easy to share. I'll do my best. All right. Okay, so the title is Cultivate and Uphold True Precepts. Okay, let's look at the initial verse of what Master has said. Okay, so she said that we need to hold the pure precepts, the precepts that Buddha has given us, the 5 precepts, and Master Chen added another 5 precepts. So total we have the 10 precepts in Tzu Chi that we are following. And we must carefully adjust our actions and speech. Masters want us to be very careful in what we are doing and what we are saying, which can cause harm, can cause hurt to people. So with the sincere thought, we realize true principles. So Master wanted to tell us that right thought is important. It's in the Eightfold Path that one of the path that Buddha has taught us is the right thought. The sincere thought is important so that we can realize the true principles. And with this kind and gentle understanding, we leave behind all that's deluded and false. So again, in the Eightfold Path, we have the part is on the right understanding, which is with the right thought and right understanding, which is leading us to closer to the wisdoms that what Buddha has taught us and what Master has repeatedly reminded us. So our thought, our actions, and speech must be gentle. So I relate it as it has to be wholesome in all perspectives. So Master said that if we do not cultivate our own conduct, we will not be able to set an example for others. How will it be possible to deliver to others? So she reminded us that in the Tzu Chi organization, we represent Tzu Chi, we wear uniform, and we have certain practices that is certain norms that we are following. So if we are not able to follow and able to conduct, how are we able to set an example which it will affect the image and reputation of the organization? And if we are not able to carry out and walk the talk, how are you able to deliver and help others that they are in need? So she reminded us on this, and then she moved on to say that in order to we need to uphold the forest study, which we must cultivate innerly the precepts, the samadhi, and the wisdoms. And this is a way to train our mind to be able to walk this path to reach to the stage of samadhi and wisdom. So she highlighted that it begins with our body, speech, and mind. So what is body? So body, it can be seen as bodily actions that like killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, taking intoxicants, and so on. So you can see this is part of the 5 precepts that Master has highlighted as to uphold the 12 precepts as the bodily actions. Next is the speech. Speech is about uttering harsh words, flattery, gossip, lying, and there are many kinds of other speeches that can hurt, can harm people out there, can cause people to quarrel, can cause people to be angry and to have hatred and to have jealousy and so on. So the part on the lying, which is part of the 5 precepts. And then the mind. So mind is, if we have unwholesome mind or unwholesome thoughts like greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, hatred, doubt, and many other unwholesome thoughts that we can have that arise in our mind. So this is what Master has reminded us to be mindful. So all in all, we can see that we got body, speech, and mind, which we can see that it is part of the precepts that can govern this. So with that, Master highlighted that we mind giving rise to thoughts, and our body then acts on it with actions of our body and the words that we speak, and our negative habitual tendencies we give rise to so much karma created throughout existence after existence. So from here we can see that the thoughts is something that is very profound, very important. It's the part that can give rise to actions and to the speech that can happen. So thoughts is like an energy, it's a vibration. I would equate it as something like a pot of boiling water that you can see many bubbles bubbling out. So it's vibrating every milliseconds. The energy is so powerful. So imagine if we are not able to understand actually what is thought, what is a vibration, what makes us think something and then take it into action. So we just take it as a pot of boiling water that thoughts arise every millisecond. So this is something that we have to be very careful, be very mindful, because like what the Buddha said, and no wonder what the Buddha said, that mind is the forerunner of all things. So whatever we think, we really can reach the place even before the action. So it's something that we have to be very careful and very mindful. So we must be vigilant. Master said we must be vigilant and carefully adjust our actions, our speech, which others can observe our conduct, which means that when in a Tzu Chi environment or we are on our own, others can see us. We are like a walking example for people. So we must do everything efficiently and skillfully, and always cultivate sincere thoughts. So sincere thought, I will take it as the wholesome thoughts that Master has always taught us, so that we are able to realize the true principles. And she added on to say that in order to be able to realize the true principles, we must be willing to change. And in order to change, we have to transform ourselves sincerely, and the wholesome thoughts that come along with it, so that our actions that we do can inspire others, so that others can head on in a good and proper direction together with us. So it's like in the Tzu Chi, we have to observe our conduct. We have to make sure that we walk the talk. We have to guide others, and in order to do that, we must ourselves be able to transform and change in order to be able to do that. So this brings us to, for me, the master explanation to link to the Buddha's teaching of the Eightfold Path and the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections. Master talk about the precepts, which is the morality. And in the Eightfold Path, we have the right speech, right action, and right livelihood to understand these are the 3 that govern us in terms of the morality. So I'm not expert in explaining Eightfold Path. I'm just highlighting the connection on it. Okay, and the next 3 is related to samadhi that what Master mentioned, which is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. That is the further study for us to be able to train our mind to achieve that pure realization. And finally, is the wisdom, which Master highlighted, the right view and the right thought. That is something that we have to train our mind in order to achieve this. Okay, so I link it to the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections. The first one that we understood is morality, which is what Master has highlighted. Concentration, which is samadhi, that what Master has highlighted. And the wisdom. And the other 3 is generosity. So generosity is to overcome our greed and our discontentment and so on. So to be generous, so we are able to pursue that. And we need to have patience. It's to overcome our impatience. So if we are somebody who is very excited, very emotional, and we can get things into trouble very easily. But we need to have patience to look at the situation. Need to have patience to cultivate. And vigor is the energy and effort. And without energy and without effort, how are you going to practice and cultivate? So these are the supporting pillars that can help us to be able to cultivate the pure precepts that Master highlighted. So with that, we can add on with the loving kindness that we have. We can develop more compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So to be able to see situation with equanimity, which is of very fundamental, which Master always has mentioned many times on this. Okay, so here I would like to share on the process of learning. Okay, so as a householder, with a single unwholesome thought, we know that actions can arise. It's something like it will lead to a multiple effects, like a ripple. So let's say we take a stone, we throw into a pond, we can see that the ripples spread all the way until the circumference of the pond. So imagine that one single unwholesome thought can lead to many kind of effects that can actually create, if it is an unwholesome situation, it creates karmic, unwholesome karmic for us. Okay, so we need to watch very carefully on our mind on this part. And we can be very easily influenced by our underlying emotions, our feelings, that this condition actually leads to our becoming because of our feelings and the actions that taken place after that. Okay, so therefore, we should not indulge in excesses. We need to know it is different from monastic life. Okay. In this part, we know that monastic life has many precepts, 200 over precepts. And for us, we have 5 precepts. In Tzu Chi, we got 10 precepts. And it's really so hard to follow the 5 precepts. Excesses, we are so exposed to all the media, advertisement, the environment. So it's very easily that we can actually go into the wrong direction. Like what just now Brother Amir said about which path to take. Okay, so this is something that we have to be very mindful, be very careful on, not to have excesses. Okay, so what are those excesses that we are actually always having the problem with us? And this is like we have family duties, which is our responsibility to do. There's nothing wrong with that. We have work commitment, which is nothing wrong with that. We pursue material wealth. Okay, so nothing wrong to have certain kind of wealth, but we have to be very careful that it must not be pursued in a way that create more and more desire, to the extent that we do not have the means and we still want to pursue it. And there are so many areas that we can be affected. Like example, even a school child's result also can affect us. Because if my child gets 95 marks, I will say, why you did not get the 5 marks? That you make a silly mistake. I want to see 100 marks. So it's a form of desire also. So I see my friend has a nice handbag. So I also buy the handbag, a branded handbag. So the desire, the material wealth is so exposed to all this. It's like peer pressure at times. So we need to know how to have the balancing act to be able to walk this path with equanimity, to see the right situation. So all this arises from thoughts. And when we cannot get it, anger, jealousy, or hatred will arise, and so on. All can arise together. Then we cannot get it, we harbor uneasiness with husband or wife, or the friends or relative and colleagues, and so on. So this will not create a good environment for ourselves also. Like what Mahatma Gandhi once says, there's enough to meet everybody's needs, but not enough to meet everybody's greed. Okay, I call it as get trapped in the power of greed. Okay, so greed is something that will lead us to a lot. I would say that if we can't have it, we have a lot of unsatisfactoriness out of that. Because if we are not able to feel contented, unsatisfactoriness will arise. And when this arises, we will feel there's a full life of suffering. And this links us to the Four Noble Truths, the doctrine. Right? The first Noble Truth is Buddha said, there is suffering. Why there is suffering? Because we are not contented, we have unsatisfaction out of that. But how can we overcome this? And that's very important. We can overcome this desire by practicing the generosity, and by being able to see the situation with equanimity. So we have to train our mind to be able to prevent unwholesome thoughts from arising, the samadhi. That is to practice the flawless study in order to be able to achieve that. And precepts can do so much up to a certain point, but beyond that, we need the samadhi and wisdom for us to cultivate to achieve that. And that is something not easy, but we are working. More important is that we are walking in the right direction, and we learn as we walk and walk as we learn. So we are the master of ourselves, to each his own, because the karma is created by ourselves. So we have to know that no one can save us by ourselves. Buddha gives us the right to walk. Master gives us the direction, the teaching to walk also. So with that, we can actually practice this through the 37 principle enlightenment, and we will be able to progress to enter into the practice towards the enlightenment. And we have to be very mindful to know that without Dharma to transform us, we will be unable to animate our afflictions or defilements. And this is something that I'm very thankful that feel with this gratitude coming to masters and many of the brothers and sisters that we learn together to learn the Dharma, so that we remind ourselves and we try to animate all these defilements or afflictions that we have. And like to remind myself and everyone of us who is walking this path to remember to follow the master's teachings and the guidance to liberate ourselves. So with that, I end my sharing, and with gratitude to all brothers and sisters. So this is my humble sharing. If there's any area that I did not share according to the Master of Buddha's teaching, it is my lack of understanding, and I seek your forgiveness. So with that, may you be well, happy, and peaceful. Kanan, thank you.
Thank you, Brother KianLee. Okay, that was the last sharer. So Brother Joe, all yours.
Hey, first of all, I think 2019 seems to be a very special year. Today we have 3 people, including Brother Chin, all got commissioned on that year. Congratulations, you're a very wonderful year, 2019. First of all, thanks to Brother Chin for doing a very thorough introduction of Brother KianLee, because now I know you are a professor of economics. And I would like to ask, the entire model of the economics actually focuses on supply and demand, which is essentially need and greed. And it's not so much need anymore, right? It's greed. And the entire system provides, it's almost like, as long as you want more, then the system will give you more. It doesn't stop. It doesn't help you recognize that you should stop. And therefore, we have a system that is running out of control, and that's where we are. So what would you say? I mean, being a professor of economics, that, usually there's an invisible hand, laissez-faire, there's an invisible hand and supposedly making things all work out. But following this model, then supposedly everybody's greed will eventually be matched, and then the greed will continue to expand, and then therefore you have to fit and match that ever expanding greed, and that's where we are right now, right? We're using up 1.7 Earth every year, even we're getting even faster. So what would you say to our current model?
I agree with you that the model is based on the supply demand, and there is this pursuit of the economic growth. And yes, on one hand, we can understand that it creates desire, it creates wants. On the other hand, is that if the economy did not not able to cater to economic growth, then with the increase in the population, then there is no derivation of the income that people can gain. And without having the income, people can't survive. People can't survive. If we rely on a total welfare society, then resources will be depleted very soon. But you can see that actually it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, provide a livelihood. On the other hand, it provides a kind of a desire. Okay, so this model is like the invisible hand that you mentioned, the Adam Smith invisible hands as wealth of the nation, whereby you can see that it can go out of control. That we call it like the El Nino effect, something like ripple effect, that it gets bigger and bigger. But if something went wrong, it just gets smaller and smaller. Then after that, it is. If I were to relate to the Dharma, it's something like our universe is expanding up to a point, explode, then just gone, and then start again. Yeah. So economics is something like that in our society, whereby if every one of us can understand one basic principle, which I always would teach a student: buy what you need, don't buy what you want. Okay. Needs and wants are different. Economics, yes, we say because human has unsatisfied needs, unsatisfied wants, so you continue to pursue. So this is a part that which is I only can try my best is to educate the students, is that please remember, spend what you're able to, get your needs, but not the wants. Wants is not necessary, but needs are the basic. It is all right. Okay, and to add on to that, of course, with the economic expansion, we have environmental destruction. A lot of environmental destruction because of that. So it's an evolution which we can see. Can we afford not to have this growth? So how the country, how society can strike a balance, that's important also. That's my 1 cent worth.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Okay, but the one thing that I want to add it on is, but that system that you just mentioned is one-sided. We're asking every one of us, this is what I'm talking about, right? It should be two-sided, meaning the system works for us as well as encouraging us to stop, to halt, to only purchase our needs versus then purchase the wants. But the system actually gives, right? So right now it's this is where we are right now, which seems to be very difficult because you have to restrain yourself. Because as long as you have the money and the system doesn't tell you that you should buy what you need and not what you want. As long as you have the money, the system will give you whatever you want, not telling you that you only should get what you need. All the system that we're talking about today, all focus on yourselves. But that's where, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just pointing out that there isn't a system that helps you. You are on your own. Everyone is on your own. And then I think Brother KianLee eventually said that there is a counter-working system, and that's called the world is failing, right? Now the world is failing. Whether you're talking about environmentally or in terms of resource, eventually it will reach a point where I can't sustain. But it still doesn't help in that the people that can't be sustained are the people that can't even be satisfied with their need. Rather, the people that can still satisfy their wants will still be able to carry on much longer than the people that could not even satisfy their needs. So there's a huge, what I'm trying to say is we're at a very big disadvantage because the system doesn't help us. The system actually pushes us further and faster down the slope. And that's why it's increasingly difficult to hold it and say, you know what, I'm only going to get what I need. Or before I get what I want, I'm going to give other people what they need. Look at the vaccines. Look at the vaccines. Some countries, they're getting the third and the fourth shots. Some other countries aren't even getting the first ones. So all I'm saying, I'm not, I'm just asking questions, and I think that the best system, hopefully, should be one where it helps, churning out the positives in us, rather than it just letting you go. And if you're, like all the controls on you and not helping you at all, it will be very difficult, and that's what we're facing right now. So I really like what you mentioned in your slide. You mentioned you have to be willing to change and transform yourself. Because if you're not willing to, the system isn't going to help you. The system is basically you work hard, you make a lot of money, you have resource, go ahead, you can buy whatever you want. You can do good, or you can do to satisfy your needs or wants. I'm not going to stop you. But I think what we can do in Tzu Chi here is to increase the affinity, increase the benefit of doing something good and kind, focusing on other people's needs. And maybe that would sort of balance the system a little bit more. Maybe that's what we can do as a whole, rather than just relying everything on one person, because that'll be very difficult for someone who who just beginning to get a taste of satisfying their wants, and now you're telling them to stop, and then this will be very difficult. Thank you, Professor. This is something that is worthy of further discussion and enlightenment from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joe.
Thank you.
For the interesting comment. I was going to add that I was once a student in economics myself. And I remember one of the first lecture I attended, and the professor was telling me that there's one first basic assumption in economic theory, that man is insatiable. And that was a fundamental assumption. I still remember it until today. And interestingly, I was asked to get involved into a debate a few years or some years back with a group of youngsters, international students, about is that alternative to capitalism? And the point that you talk about, absolute free demand and supply, is there an answer to that? And I try to talk about a system of humanism, that there is an overarching limit that humanism have to take over. You know what? The students won, the students didn't buy it. So Brother Joe, you're right. We've gone to the system where the way the world works has shaped the minds of a lot of youngsters, and that's getting absolutely dangerous. And that brings me to the point that what the Buddha said, we are in the Dharma degenerating age. And that is so true. And I think we are so lucky to be in this path that we can check our own self. So it's past 9.
Let me add, Brother Chin, that we are on that little path that Brother Amir showed. Remember, there's only one person going that way. Yeah, no one likes it. No one likes it to going against our nature. But that fits in perfectly with what Sister Cathrine says about we are wandering away from our innate enlightenment. The system drives us away, but we should know it, but nobody buys it. Like you said, Brother Chin, you ended beautifully by saying that this is Dharma degenerative period. That is why. So obvious, but so unreachable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, with that note, we come to the end. Maybe I should pass the session over to Sister Siu Ching. He's going to close it off.
Sister Stephanie got one question.
Sister Stephanie got
question? No lah. I say 感恩. That one is, the other Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie L. Sorry.
感恩sokong sawer, 感恩soko sopo. Sometimes when we talk about what we need, what we want, I always when I buy the grocery or what, I always like planning, this thing I will use for that and etc. But that's not what I need, but what I want. This not what I need, but that's what I want. It just for fulfill my greedy. And yeah, I just like, I have planning for this, but when I list my thing, my own, like, them is too much. So that's why, yeah, I don't know. It's my mindset, right? Like, I've always spending for that, but it just for greedy when I list too much. So why I have to overcome with this. And
So I couldn't quite question. I think I was trying to say about the differences between needs and want, right, Brother KianLee, on the point. You want to comment on this?
Yes. You see, many times we fell into the trap of we want it. Oh, I see the thing I like, I touch, I like. I see something happy, I want it. But then I always reminded myself, and including my family people, do you need it? Oh, there's an offer, buy one, get one free, for example. But I say, how many do you need? Oh, I need one only. Okay, that I'd rather pay $4 to have one piece rather than buy two for $7. That's one thing. The other thing is, sometimes they touch, they like to want it. They say, oh, it's so nice, so cute. I say, but do you need it? No, my home still have. I still have, then why you want it? So that's the difference between need and want, basically. I use a very simple analogy for this example.
Brother Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think knowing is already half the battle, right? If you know what you need and what you want, knowing is half the battle. Like then comes making the choices, right? Like you know versus you know that you need versus you know that you want. but then making the right choice. Sometimes we know that this is what we want. Like, your brother KianLee is talking about knowing that we only need one. We don't need two, but we're gonna buy two. That's usually the problem. And that's why it goes back to how this world doesn't help you. In fact, it tries to get you to do more of the other bad things. And unless you have enough people who spreading this idea, and even the system where the business is telling you that you have to be accounted for, that it's almost like, when you're buying 2 for 7, 1 for 4, 2 for 7, and then the person will ask you, do you really need 2? And then if you say, no, I only need 1, okay, then I will sell you 1 for $3.50. Now that system, one day, will allow for people they will recognize, they will see that I know this is right, and you're helping me too. So then this will be toward the right direction. But in fact, even the people, the business doing the selling, they did not have the responsibility. They would think that if I can sell 2, I don't really care if that's what you need or what you want. I'm going to sell as many as I want. So the system doesn't help you. The system, and so even if you have all the social responsibilities, right? Corporate social responsibilities, right? How many would be able to stand up and say, I only sell people what they need, not what they want? Because if you do that, that business isn't going to survive. Now, if we have the world of people that are truly upholding CSR, which is, I will only sell the things that people need, and I object to sell the things that people want, only absolute need, then maybe we have a shot. Wisdom and action go together. Sometimes we can't just by our own, but if the system works in tangent with our belief, faith, and then carries it out, it will be much, much forceful. But it's far away. So that's why we have this group. That's why we have this group. And now we're all repenting. Oh my goodness, I just bought something I don't need. This is what Brother KianLee is talking about. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Brother Joe. Thank you for explaining the trappings of samsara that we are living in right now, especially for us as lay practitioners. Okay, so we come to the end of the session for the night, and I will now pass on to Sister Siu Ching.
Wow,